All righty, I've got 8 o'clock if y'all want to get situated out there, and want to thank everybody for being here. Y'all show up for 8 o'clock. I may have to start having 8 o'clock meetings more often, so good to see all my committee members here. Thank them for getting here this morning. So before we do anything else, we're going to go ahead and open up with a quick word of prayer. So I'm going to turn it over to my vice chair and let him open us up.
Let us pray. Our dear God, Heavenly Father, Lord, we ask forgiveness of our sins and shortcomings, Father. We ask for your leadership, your guidance in everything that we do, everything that we say. Father, may we have open minds so that we will do the business of the people. Again, Lord, we ask for your guidance and your leadership in everything that we do, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Dwayne. Again, welcome. It's good to see everybody bright and early. This is the House Appropriations Subcommittee of General Government, so thank y'all for being here, and we are going to go ahead and get started. David, y'all want to come on up, and we'll let y'all go first, and you're going, for members, this will be on page 2, section 11, Transparency and Campaign Finance. So good to see y'all this morning, and look forward to hearing what you have to say. So the floor is
Right early, Mr. Chairman. Pretty brief presentation today, gentlemen. As far as the amended 2020 budget, the governor has proposed an increase in the amended budget for 2022 of $121,171. That represents the $5,000 pay increase for full-time benefit eligible employees in my agency. Very appreciative of that. Spoke with the budget office. That does cover our staff and what that increase would cost. That increased cost would be. The one request I would have for the amended budget, and I've spoken with a number of y'all about this, roughly a $70,000 increase to cover legal fees with the state administrative hearings office. Higher legal fees than we've historically had to pay. A number of additional cases we've run through there. So I am asking for roughly $72,000 in change. I've sent invoices over to the budget office to sort of highlight what those have cost in the last 6 months, what we expect those to cost over the next. As far as the big budget for FY 2023, we track what the governor's office has proposed. We're good with those. I know a number of agencies have had higher billing than normal for legal fees. A lot of those agencies have suspected that they're one-offs. I don't know whether that's going to be the case with us or not. So what we've talked with the budget office about is, while we are asking for that $70,000 in change in the amended budget, we're going to hold off on the big budget to see if we have those fees next year or not. And if we do, we'll come back in the amended budget and talk about that. But short of that, we're happy to wait and see.
okay. And these increased costs, that's with administrative courts. And
Yeah. So
the committee knows what you're asking for.
Yeah,
You can just explain it.
So the way our cases run, whether it's a third-party complaint or a complaint we initiate, the initial hearing is before our actual board. If we find probable cause to move forward, that's forwarded to the State Administrative Hearings Office, and the Attorney General represents us there. But there is a stay at that point of 30 days to negotiate. Historically, we've been able to either resolve a lot of those cases or just not have a lot of those cases. And in the past 18 months or so, we've had more cases that we've worked, in part thanks to budget increases. And so those have moved to the AG's office and OSA at this point.
Okay. The IT funds that we did a couple of years ago, could you just update us on that?
Sure.
Is all that completed and implemented and all that good stuff?
We had a $300,000 one-time budget line item the current fiscal year. That is being taken out because it is a one-time item, so it's being taken out of our big budget next year. We've rolled out the new e-filing system for almost everybody. Third-party filers, or those who use third-party vendors to file, They have one final filing this January 31st cycle in the old system. The next filing deadline, April 30th, everyone will be migrated over to the new system. So we've used that money. I think we're in pretty good posture, and we are migrating the financial disclosure as well over the new system. We actually had training with the House caucus not too long ago.
Okay.
So those systems are meshing well now, the third party.
Pretty much. It's new technology, so it looks a little different, but the general feedback we've gotten is once people get in there and they get used to it, they like it a lot better. So we're fairly happy with that process.
Okay. Let's see. Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just figured I'd make it official. I just want to say thanks for being cooperative with those third-party vendors, because a lot of us use them, and
Yeah.
thank you for doing that, because we all wanted to do right and be right and have it on time and everything, but
Yeah.
y'all have cooperated with them immensely, so thank you.
I appreciate it, Mr. Whip. Ideally, we would have been migrated over already for this filing deadline, but I just made the decision that we weren't totally comfortable, and it was better to be safe than sorry and make sure we got it right.
And again on this 72,000, that's based pretty much if everybody's behaving and doing what they're supposed to be doing, then you won't need that again.
Right,
Right. I understand that, right? Okay.
But you'll see the headlines. I think we had a headline the other day with the Oxendine case, and we just can't resolve that one. We have to litigate it, so we get billed for that.
Gotcha. And I guess working with the State Office of Administrative Hearings, is that works good for y'all in resolving your problems and everything that you have going on within your agency, right? And it saves the state money and keeps everything kind of in-house, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions for David? All right. Appreciate it. Thank y'all for what you do, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we've got GTA, Georgia Technology Authority. Come on down. Ms. Thomas, welcome. They are, I'm sorry for the committee, they're on page 5, base section 12. All right, the floor is yours. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Watson and committee members. My name is Shanzia Thomas, and I'm honored to serve as your state CIO and the Executive Director for the Georgia Technology Authority. Thanks for inviting me here today to join you. Since GTA doesn't get any appropriations from the state, I wanted to take this time to talk to you about some of the things that we do, some of the projects that we oversee, and 2 new projects that we're going to help other agencies with. First, I want to lay out the responsibilities of GTA. Our job is to promote an enterprise approach to state IT and security, to deliver IT services and support the executive branch agencies, and to manage the state's central IT infrastructure. When I became the CIO, I wanted my team to focus on 4 areas, and those 4 areas are customer service and citizen engagement. We're using technology as a tool to help improve operational efficiencies within our agencies. Number 2, we wanted to strengthen our state cybersecurity posture, increasing our efforts to stay ahead of cyber threats, and to also equip agencies with tools and other needed information. Number 3, to aid agencies in implementing transformational solutions. One of the solutions that we're working on is migrating our systems to the cloud. And last, to improve digital solutions required for our new modern workspace. We're trying to supply the state with tools and connectivity for both at-home and in-office work. On this slide I covered last month, I won't go into detail, but I will, however, reiterate that we project approximately $182 million in GETS expenditures will pass through GTA in FY 2022. We provide full-service IT support to 14 state agencies and about 40,000 users, approximately 40,000 users. There are 89 agencies that purchase one or more services through GTA, and approximately 100,000 users that we provide phone and or network services to. In FY 2021, agencies reported spending $715 million on IT infrastructure services, network services, application development and support. Of that, $182 million was spent on the GETS program. The world of IT is fast-moving and ever-changing. We are proud of our past successes, and we also want to focus on our future. After I became CIO, I created 2 new positions at GTA. One was a Chief Cloud Officer. This is the first position that's in state government in the U.S., and we're so proud to have our Chief Cloud Officer, Dimitri. We understand that cloud services provide us with greater efficiencies, security, and accessibility. The second position I created was a Chief Development Officer, and one key function of this role is to guide and develop our strike team, which is a team that proactively engages with state and local governments on all their IT needs. Cybersecurity is vitally important in today's world. The federal infrastructure bill includes $1 billion in grants for states for cyber projects. 80% of that will go to local governments, of which 25% will go to rural areas. As you can see, there will be a matching requirement for this grant program. However, right now, we don't know what that match will be, and as soon as we know, we'll get back with you on that. You've heard a lot about our broadband piece. Broadband has quickly become a necessity for schools, hospitals, and businesses to operate in today's society. Yesterday, we were proud to stand with Governor Kemp to announce almost $408 million in awards for broadband deployment. And I want to thank Jessica Simmons and her team for all the work that they did. Our team is assisting the state in providing resources and technical expertise in this distribution process. So on page 15 of your FY23 tracking document, you will see a little over $51 million appropriated to GTA for 2 projects. But before I go into detail on those 2 projects, I would like to explain the Technology Empowerment Fund, where this money will be placed. As a state authority, funds allocated to the Technology Empowerment Fund are not required to be spent by the end of the year. As with many large IT projects, the financial expense can be great, and the time to complete the projects can span over multiple years. That doesn't mean there's a lack of oversight. Quarterly reports will be made to the House and Senate budget offices and to OPB. And this fund has only been used that we know of once in 2003, and it was to help develop the state portal. I'm sorry, I punched over all my. Okay, and this slide tells you about the Oversight Committee. There is a steering committee for this empowerment fund. And as you see here, this is a list of the committee members, which will include the House Appropriations Chair and his or her designee. And we will work closely with this team to always ensure proper financial oversight and accountability. Additionally, GTA provides project assurance and oversight via 3 processes. We call IVMV, which is an independent verification and validation, our critical panel review and oversight process. So one of the two newest projects we have is our Next Gen ERP project. On page 15 in the FY23 tracking sheet, This next-gen ERP cloud modernization project will allow, has been allocated $50 million. These funds will be used to replace the current PeopleSoft system, which was installed over 20 years ago. This project will take approximately 4 to 5 years to implement, and GTA will be serving as oversight as subject matter experts on this project. Funds for this project will be withdrawn from the Empowerment Fund as needed in accordance to all proper procedures and oversight. This next slide details the type of oversight and reports that we will receive on a quarterly basis. We will receive the budget plan, the actual expenditure plan, and the projected expenditure plans, along with any updates on the health of the overall project. SAO and DOS will request these funds monthly from this Technology Empowerment Fund. The last project, newest project that we have on the FY23 tracking sheet, this project is the All Payers Claim Database. And there's approximately $1,230,000 that was put in the GTA budget for this project. OPB's Office of Health Strategy and Coordination will oversee this project. The objective here is to use the database to analyze public healthcare costs and improve healthcare delivery system. This $1.23 million will be spent on the data analytics team, GTRI, who's going to build this piece for us. It's also going to be spent on a vendor which has yet to be determined, and this vendor will be selected through an RFP process. And then it'll go to staff, the OHSC staff at OPB. So that's what that money will be used for. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to highlight some things that we're doing. We're committed to supporting our fellow agencies. I want to thank you for your support. We wouldn't be here without the support and the relationship we have with you. And if any of you need anything from us, please contact me directly or Cameron. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm not going to say that I know a lot about what you're talking about for sure. I know how to work my telephone and the GPS in my tractor, but that's about all the technology I operate. But I guess just to clarify a little bit on this $51 million, and the fund that it's going into, and maybe I'll start with the steering committee fund. I guess I saw who was on it. Do they have a chairman? Do they have rules? Do they vote on expenditures? I guess how does the steering committee work as far as that money going in this fund and how it's managed and allocated? And I know we're putting it all in one time, but we're not going to use it for 4 or 5 years. So I guess just do you have any details on?
There are details in our statute, which is I think 50-2571, where the steering committee will get together and talk about initiatives that need to be funded. And there are processes and procedures for these funds, how they allocate, what they allocate, and there's processes and procedures on how that money is withdrawn. So yeah, there's oversight, and they will get quarterly reports as well.
All right, and then will a report come back to the General Assembly, or, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to.
I think so.
How will we know what the money's being spent on?
I can get back with you on that.
I guess
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, but they'll all have an opportunity to look at what you're doing with it, and then they'll vote on it as a group to make those expenditures in 3 years from now or 5 years from now, whenever they're needed.
Well, this fund allows them to put a lump sum in this fund, so it doesn't have to be supplied yearly. So they can put a lump sum in here that can cover 4 to 5 years if a project takes that long.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. 15. Chairman Barr.
Thank you. I appreciate your presentation very much. To follow up with some of the chairman's type questions, it's fairly unique for this type of process. Can you help us with some of the advantages? Just quite frankly, I don't want to give away our oversight of this large of amount of money. Is there estimates that have been done? Where did the $50 million come from? Just talk through some of those things for us, if you don't mind.
Well, right now, SAO and DOS, they're still in the discovery phase right now, so they don't really know the full budget of this project. So right now, the $50 million has been placed in this fund. Like I said, we're still in the discovery phase. So when this money is put there, sometimes projects, our oversight at GTA is to make sure that projects stay on task, they stay on budget, and they stay on time. If they get off task and off their timeline, then projects the funds for projects can exceed their budget. So our job is to make sure they stay within the guidelines. That's why we're going to receive all of those quarterly reports. But we don't know, like I said, the full amount of the project, so therefore right now this amount has been placed there. If there's an amount over this amount that's needed by SAO and DOAS, they will have to present that to the steering committee and with an explanation of why they need more money.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question goes more to how do you find the best, most skilled workers to help you with these decisions? I imagine we're competitive almost internationally with talent. So to me, with this type of project, you need good oversight, but you need the best talent you can find. So if you could spend a little bit of time explaining to us the competitive environment in which you work.
Well, because we're working with DOAS and SAO and GTA, we're working together. We're trying to band together to find the best resources there is. There are talks about a consulting firm to help us with this. That we have MOUs with several consulting firms. So we're still in the discovery phase, trying to figure out which firm, which company will be the best to help us with this project. This is a huge project. This
Exactly.
is one of the largest projects we've ever been involved in. So we do want to make sure we have the best of the best on this project.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, I guess back to some of the same questions. If we're in a discovery phase and we're hiring a consulting firm, and who in the fund makes that decision? I mean, if they don't have rules, if they're not an established committee and they don't have to vote, I guess who decides we're going to use this consulting firm, we're going to make this purchase right now, or next year, or 5 years from now?
Well, there are rules. We just got to get a copy of those. This fund was used back in 2003, so there are processes and procedures and rules around this. So I can get that for you, but there are rules around. As far as selecting the vendors, there's an RFP process for the actual vendor that will be implementing the project. But the collaboration for OPB, GTA, SAO, and DOAS, I think we are able to make those decisions on. I mean, there's projects that we've had oversight on, so we know most of the vendors what they can do. So we'll work collectively together to make sure we pick the right vendor for this project.
Okay. But does that go through the DOAS process?
Yes.
Yes,
DOS is involved, yes.
Okay. It's just a lot of money that I'm trying to process
Right.
how we're going to make sure that it's, and then I guess if we haven't used it in so long, what was it used for then, and how long did it take to spend the money?
I wasn't here then, but it was a state portal. But there are procedures, and we can get those guidelines for you.
And was that still a 4 or 5 year process? I'm guess it's a lot of money, and why are we putting it all in there now? Yeah. Why not put in $5 million now, and we'll be back here in a year, and we can put some more in there if needed, I guess.
Well, in this fund, funds don't have to be like if you put funds in your budget, they have to be used within that fiscal year. In this fund, you don't have to use those funds in 1 year. And as I stated, projects can go over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So you know the funds are there, and the funds are there when you need them. So however they want to withdraw the funds, and DOS will withdraw those funds for us. But however they want to withdraw those funds, there are documents they have to, and deliverables they have to present to us, you know, stating why they need these funds and what these funds are for.
And I guess, so how do we get to the 51 million? Do we have any idea what's in that number? I mean, we had to get it from somewhere.
Well,
you can come on. You can come on down.
yeah,
so.
come on in. Yeah.
Cameron Fashion, GTA. My understanding is that the funds are being requested through DOAS and SAO, and so we're just kind of the piggy bank holding on in that account for those funds. Part of our technology oversight allows us to kind of monitor those projects as they move forward, but the request came through them, so I would kind of have to defer to them to answer that.
To DOAS
and
SAO.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We got a few lights here. Number 6. Is that Representative Prince?
Hey, thank you, Chairman. And this is going back to the chairman's question, or sort
Okay.
of not his question, but well, I guess his question. Those funds that are in the endowment, you mentioned the endowment's been, I guess, started since 2003, or it's been around a while.
Yes.
This
That fund.
So this number that we have here, I guess
The
50
50 million?
50 million.
Okay.
Is that based off the project itself, or is it based off of? Because I'm assuming there's already money in the endowment for whatever other projects that they funded before.
No, there's no. This is
A brand new endowment.
brand new endowment. Yes, for this particular
Okay.
project.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
17.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not sure if this helps, but I think there's two different kind of heartburns here, right? One is the length of the project and the implementation there, and then two, just the general sum of money. I'll try to assist on one, coming from two parents that were in the PeopleSoft world. The implementation of such a project can take, obviously, a significant number of years. And upon beginning that project, certainly would want to make sure that the funds were there to complete that project, because you would not want to start that and then have something come along and we have a crash in 2 years and them not be able to finish that implementation. So I would subscribe to some understanding of the time of that and maybe putting those funds in now. But we aren't answering the heartburn of where do we get to 50 million and is that enough? So we would, as you've already stated, they can answer that. But to speak to the timing, I can, just for the benefit of the committee, I would subscribe that I understand the need to put in a sum of money to make sure that project was going to be fully implemented, and not have the rug jerked out 2 years into it. But certainly we would like a little bit of clarification on how we got to the $50 million.
Okay, so that would have to come from SAO. Again, this is a huge project. We don't know the budget of this project just yet, but there are things that need to be done before the project kicks off. So there's funding that's needed for that. I've been involved in projects over the years where if funds were not put on a PO, funds that were allocated for a specific project wasn't put on a PO in time, those funds was lost. So that project was stalled for a very long time until that agency found more money. And with this project, with this fund, they can put this lump sum of money in there, and that's something that the agencies don't have to worry about, using those funds and allocating those funds within that year, within that fiscal year. They can keep this money there and use this money over a period of 3, 4, 5 years, however long they need it. So that is to ensure that money is there for this project when needed, when they need to draw down from it.
Okay, that helps for sure. Chairman Smith?
So now I'm imagining this pot of money sitting, and I'm not sure of the process, but someone somewhere, I hope, is determining a way to earn interest or something on funds that are dormant but available. So I don't know where that works within our process here, at what level, but please tell me it is earning some interest or something for our state.
I can get information on the details on this fund from our statute and let you know about that.
Thank you.
Number 11, Whit Patchen.
That's me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you're really just kind of the pass-through overseer of technology projects?
Yes.
Okay. So this, as far as you know, this is two projects. One that's the all data payer claim. I always get confused of which one goes in what spot. And then another project, but you don't know what agency that's. I mean, you know, but you can't recall it right now. What agency that other almost 50 million is coming from? Where
that's
that?
DOAS and SAO.
But they operate. I mean, they're doing it for another agency too, right?
This is an enterprise project. You know, most of our agencies, their accounting departments uses PeopleSoft. This
PeopleSoft is a program.
Yeah.
Okay.
This PeopleSoft system is very old, so we do need to make sure we update this. Right now, we do have funding to do that. So this is a collaborative effort from not just DOAS and SAO. SAO is the owner of the project, but this project will involve every accounting department within every agency. Okay. There's a SME from every agency on this committee to help make sure that they're getting what they need for their agency within this project. So it's not just a project for SAO; it's an enterprise-wide project for the accounting system.
Okay, thank you.
Number 15, Chairman Barr.
I appreciate the opportunity for a second. I think it's taken at least me a little while to understand the process, and I appreciate your patience and your education for us. Our point of view, right, we're just trying to make sure that we understand, and 50 million is a big number for our committee. Would it be possible to, now understanding y'all are kind of the flow-through accountability part of this project, would it be a possibility to get us a flow chart of the process and some of the checks and balances that y'all take to help us understand, you know, truly how secure this will be, and, you know, some of the simple questions in our business minds of, you know, this is a large chunk of money for a long period of time. You know, will we be earning interest? Those simple kind of questions that we want to just make sure we're responsible as this committee. So if that would be a request I would have, Mr. Chairman, if we could, you know, look at something like that so we can understand the process, because I haven't seen an appropriation like this in my time, and that would be super helpful for me.
So the process for our oversight, or the process for this fund?
That's right. Yeah. So I think you said it's in statute, or,
okay,
you know, even if you can get us that, we can kind of dig down into it in our own research.
Okay.
That would be great.
I can get that.
Thank you so much.
All right, number 4, Representative Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the benefit of the committee, to Chairman Smith's point and to Representative Barr's point, I think as a body, as a maybe not as a subcommittee, but as a committee, and there's people in here with a lot more power than me. I'm looking at the whip. There's a lot of money that sits that doesn't earn the kind of interest that we would think. I can point immediately to $1.5 billion sitting in the Lottery Reserve Fund that probably doesn't earn any more interest than our basic checking accounts. I've tried for years to raise awareness of that, and I couldn't let this opportunity go by to let folks who can do a lot more than I can about that make sure that we start treating some of these pots of money that sit around for a lot longer than 4 or 5 years really like endowment funds that pay off significant interest.
Thank you.
And I don't anticipate this money sitting, again, this is a huge project that involves every state agency and their accounting department. So there's a need right now. Most of the state agencies, they're using the PeopleSoft technology, but they also have another system they're using with this. That's more money they've spent. So this way, with this 50 million or whatever the budget's going to be, we will try to make sure that this is one system that they can all use one time, and not have to go spend money on other projects to go with it to make their agencies work. So it's going to take a lot of planning from the committee members, the agency heads, all the IT folks to get this thing done. So that's why I said every agency has a SME that's going to help in this project.
Okay. We got one more, I think, here. Number 10. Is that you?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Floor
Chairman.
leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today and educating us on the project. My question simply comes in terms of, my experience with purchasing technology. The day I purchase it, tomorrow it's out of date. With such a project of this magnitude, are we ensuring that in terms of the length of the project, sounds like it may be a while. When we finish the project, are we still going to have the most up to date, or is there going to be something else that we're looking at that we're going to have to come back and update from there?
Well, like you said, technology is always changing. There's always new software. There's always new things that's coming up. We're going to try to get the most up to date, and that's what GTA is here to do, to make sure that my team stays up on the latest and greatest technology, bringing that forward. So that's another reason why we're involved. So if there's something out there that we know, that we see, that if the vendor that is chosen is not going to produce something, or they're not going to automate something, that's my biggest thing: automation, because we don't have the resources. So the more we automate, the more we stay up on technology, the better we're going to be. So there's going to be some things that's out of date, yes, on this project. But for the most part, we're going to try to get the latest and greatest technology we can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and while everybody was questioning, I looked up the code section here, and it says, subject to the appropriations process, the decision-making and priority-setting responsibilities for allocating these funds are vested in the Chief Information Officer and the Director of the Office in Planning and Budget. So that would be, I guess, how the funds are allocated.
Allocated, yes.
Yes, okay. All right, so I don't know if that helps everybody, but that's how it would go down, so.
And there's more in that code section, so.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't read it all.
Okay.
There's
a lot more there.
That was just in the first paragraph. So, any further questions on this? I know we've kind of been trying to figure it all out. So, I don't see any more lights. So,
if there are any more questions come up, we'll be glad to come back and answer those, and we'll get the information from SAO.
Yeah, if you can get whatever the breakdown of kind of how we got to this number, so that we know that, and I guess we've kind of answered some of the why we're doing it and who's going to be looking after this. So, but yeah, if you can get us that.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much.
Welcome you got thrown to the fire here on your first subcommittee meeting. So sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I
But
tried to read that code section before I got here, but it's a lot. There's a lot in there.
No, thank you for what you do. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
being here. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we've got access to Medical Cannabis Commission. Andrew, there he is. Come on down. Good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And we'll turn it over to you. And if you can just kind of update us on, overall how things are going over there and kind of where we are too as well. And if you have any needs or what all you got going on. So, floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Chairman Watson and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about a relatively new, not new anymore, but still relatively new and still in the establishing phases state agency, the Georgia Access to Medical Cannabis Commission. Again, I'm Andrew Turnage, and I'm the executive director for said new commission. And Mr. Chairman, if it's agreeable, I'd refer the committee and any members of the public to just take a look on the commission's website on our reports page, and I'll refer to primarily pages 3 and 4 from this report for the committee this morning. Those pages refer to our budget as well as our agency milestones.
All right. Everybody got it?
Thank you, members. And again, I'll be referring primarily to pages 3 and 4 in the Commission's 2022 annual report. The first I'd like to refer to is on page 4, and it's our agency milestones. One of the things that I think is important for this committee to hear is what have we done, and we can take a look at the budget items that follow on the milestones. Just for reference, our agency is responsible for regulating the production side of new industry designed to serve the patients who are on the Georgia Department of Public Health low THC oil registry. So those patients have to go through a process through DPH to get access to purchase medical cannabis. Our agency's responsibility is to regulate the producer of that medical cannabis. The DPH patient registry has grown from 13,000 back a little before 2019 when this law was passed, Georgia's HOPE Act, to more than 20,000 patients in 2021. So with the startup funding that our agency received in previous fiscal years, the commission members, again, just a quick history. I know we have some members that I haven't spoken to before, but commission members are appointed, 3, the chair, and 2 members are appointed by the governor's office, 2 are appointed by the lieutenant governor, and 2 commission members are appointed by the Speaker of the House. Those members were appointed in November of 2019, and I was onboarded as the commission's sole employee the following year in late May of 2020. 4 months after my onboarding, we began our RFP process. That is the process by which we have accepted applications from industry applicants that are competing. It's a competitive RFP. They are competing for the 6 licenses that this commission has the statutory ability to issue. 2 of those are Class 1. Class 1 means that that's a 100,000 square foot license for grow. The 4 Class 2 are for 50,000 square feet facilities. Again, those are secure greenhouses with a variety of requirements in order to operate, which includes security cameras, key card access, a security plan, et cetera, which is outlined in our RFP. So after my onboarding, again, we did open that RFP process in November, on November 23rd, and closed that RFP process in January of 2021. We received 69 applications, and the commission has evaluated those and scored those applications. In July last calendar year, the commission issued its notice of intent to award those 6 licenses and designated me as executive director to serve as the hearing officer for the required post-award protest process. And that is the phase that we are currently in, Mr. Chairman. Along with funding that we received from this House and specifically this committee, we've been able to do some things that are very important for any state agency to have. We've been able to get a website online. We have a meeting notification system. We have a virtual chat bot that is an opportunity for the public to be able to access our homepage on our website and ask questions about what we do, what we provide, as well as what the law requires for medical cannabis in Georgia. And we also have a virtual call center. So we don't have staff answering the phone. We have a virtual call center that people can navigate through if they contact the commission. Those are important items, as well as our staffing. Thanks to the amended fiscal year budget, if you'd like to refer to page 3, I'll start to move in the direction of the numbers. For amended fiscal year 22, you can see that for FY22, we were appropriated $225,000, and we are funded entirely by appropriations. So the 225 really was a very minimal amount for the items that the commission had taken on. And thanks to the help from this committee, again, this House, we did receive amended appropriations, an additional $622,000, and with those funds, again, we've been able to onboard some very necessary staff for the commission. That includes a general counsel as an attorney. 3 licensing managers and a director of investigations. We have onboarded all but 2 of those staff members. We are in the process of conducting interviews today for one of those positions, and the final position is still being advertised and going through the required hiring process with our human resources. For FY23, Mr. Chairman, the amount that you see there for FY22 is continued in the recommendation from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget for our agency for FY23. And the increase that you see there, which increases the recommended budget for the agency to just a little more than $908,000, includes the statewide for all state employees raises and the benefits increases should that pass from both chambers and be signed into law. So that is the increase that you see listed for FY23 for the commission. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, there are several highlights that are not necessarily budgetary that are in the report. They are statutory requirements for us. We have to report those to the General Assembly. I'm happy to address those if there are questions about those, but in the interest of time and for your committee, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about agency funding and budget.
All right, thank you. And you may not have this number off the top of your head, but for the committee's knowledge, how much revenue do you bring in on the applications for the permits that are offered?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the question. We deposited about $760,000 in application fees, and we project depositing an additional roughly $800,000 for licensing fees once our contracts are issued. So we are in the $1.5 million range for revenue collection.
Okay. All right. Floor leader, you got a question down there? Or Will Patchett, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got several questions. So you brought in how much, the first deposit from applications was how much?
A little over $760,000.
Is any of that refundable back to any, that's just what people paid to apply?
It's a non-refundable application fee, yes, sir.
All right, and the period you're in right now as far from the licensing and the granting of the licenses, what did you call that?
It's the post-award protest process, and it's required.
How long do you see that taking?
The anticipation, our projection is that the process will be completed before the end of this fiscal year.
So it's taking a year for that to occur?
So we opened our RFP process a little less than 5 months after I came on board as the only employee at the commission, and that process should conclude at the end of this year. That would be roughly a year from the time that I've onboarded.
Well, it's from the time they were, didn't you say that the license, the original granting of the license was in July or June of 21?
The notice of intent to award, yes, sir, July.
So you're saying it'll take a year to go through that period. I'm hearing from a lot of people, they're really frustrated about what's going on. Why can't we go ahead and grant the licenses and move? Nobody's been able to answer that question, and I don't know if you can or not, but I'd love to hear a try at it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an excellent question and one that we do receive, and I'm certainly happy to respond. The way that the statute is written, the licensing process is a competitive RFP application. So the 69 companies that submitted their application agreed by submitting that application that they would follow the procedures both for pre-award and post-award. In the post-award procedures that they've agreed to, it's a part of the requirements through the Department of Administrative Services for issuing contracts. There is a post-award process that has to be followed. That is an opportunity in our procedures that's a little different than the DOAS requirements because our application process has a statutory requirement for the confidentiality of those application materials. So through that process, there's a requisite period for the companies to confer, and that's basically for companies and or their counsel to get into contact with each other and exchange those confidential documents within the requirements of the RFP. So that time frame is a part of that time required. Following the exchange of those documents, the agency and me as the executive director serving as the hearing officer, we've had to conduct the post-award pre-hearings. That's like a status conference in a legal sense to see where those applicants are at and see if they are ready to go forward to hearing. And once we have the information from that process, to go forward with the hearings. So we have conducted pre-hearings for all of the protests that were received. We received 22 of those, and we are in the process of conducting hearings for all of those protests.
So those are protests, does that include, I mean, and I don't know, this is hearsay, so are they actual people have actually filed lawsuit against the commission or against the state on this, or is this just still the process going through?
Thank you for the question, Representative. The process is administrative as opposed to litigation in court, and so it's a due process requirement to go through that administrative process. It gives the protesting applicants the opportunity to demonstrate that they have an economic interest and that they were susceptible to award. Again, those are requirements outlined in the protest process.
Thank you.
It gives them the opportunity to be heard, which is very important in that post-award protest process.
Thank you.
All right, Representative Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along the same lines as Whip Hatchet, I understand just enough about administrative law to be dangerous. And I understand you've got 22 protests and people are coming before you for those hearings. My common sense in the law tells me that those 22 people wouldn't be going through this process if they weren't setting up for future litigation. So my question is, do you agree with me? Do you anticipate litigation? And if so, what kind of costs and further time delay might we be looking at?
It's an excellent question. I appreciate the opportunity to respond. The expectation or anticipation, given that there are 37 states who are involved in various ways based on those state statutes and the other 36 states, in all other 36 states, litigation has followed this licensing process. So to respond directly to your question, Representative, I would not expect that things would go differently here. It doesn't mean that they won't, but that has been the case in every other state with the issuance of licenses for medical cannabis or cannabis contracts.
Have y'all put any estimates, any pen to paper on what kind of costs we should be prepared, that we should be prepared for you to ask of us at some point?
It's an excellent question. We have not prepared cost estimates for that. I'm not sure that there's a way to project what's anticipated on the cost for that. As you know, of course, that the litigation for any state agency, unless there are other requirements in the provisions, we are certainly represented in Superior State Federal District by the state's Attorney General's office.
Gotcha. And one final question. If and really when litigation happens after this process that you're in right now, will the folks that receive the license awards, will that be able to go forward simultaneously with litigation?
That's an excellent question, Representative. I appreciate that. I think the concern, frankly, that in anyone, especially for the patients that are awaiting lawful access to products here, I think that probably the largest obstacle in terms of time is the possibility that there could be an injunction in a litigation environment that would stop our process, and the time that ensues for that to be adjudicated in the legal system.
But unless and until somebody moves for an injunction and a judge grants it, once you're through the process you're in right now, the people that were awarded the licenses, they can get started.
Yes, the moment that the contract is signed, they will be able to begin this process of producing low THC oil and products.
And you anticipate the contracts will be signed as soon as this process you're in right now is over?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Representative Wiedauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In fear of being a little bit repetitive, because Representative Evans was in my wheelhouse here with thought. So at this point, even though we're going through this process, I understand, and it's administrative at this point, there might be legal action later on. But the companies that have been awarded these licenses at this point, there's obviously going to be a lag time of being able to produce and put product out there for the people that need this. Like the whip said, there's a lot of frustration. We're hearing from a lot of people. These companies cannot produce right now or begin production so that at the end of this administrative period that some people are impatiently waiting on, they can kind of hit the ground running? Is that, as I understand it, they're completely frozen, they cannot do anything at this point, is that correct?
Thank you for the question, Representative, and you are correct. They are statutorily stopped from lawful production of low THC oil and products until a contract is issued. So the Commission, again, at its July meeting, at the very end of July last calendar year, issued their notice of intent to award. So it's a little bit of a two-step process. That NOIA, or Notice of Intent to Award, identified who the Commission intends to award that contract to. That begins the post-award protest process, which is where we're at in that phase of that process. At the conclusion of that, then the Commission will be required to meet and vote to issue the award, which would be the license contract.
And then they would be in production at that
Yes, sir.
point.
Correct.
And do you have any idea, I mean, I should know the answer to this, I apologize for asking the question, but have you been told from their point of view, from the time they actually, or this process finally ends and we finally begin production, the time that it's going to take to actually get this medicine out there?
It's a very good question, Representative, and I appreciate it. In advance of the RFP process, and to say it differently, before our RFP process ever began, when I first came into this role as executive director, of course, many companies and their representatives were very interested in knowing what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, and how it would happen. I asked questions of them as well because I wanted to get the answer to the question that you just asked. And the responses vary from company to company. And again, that doesn't mean that they were an interested applicant in our process. It just means that they contacted me before that RFP process began. But many companies identified a window as short as 90 days. Some companies indicated a window as long as 9 months to be able to get from start to product on the shelf. So I think that, I think a lot of it depends on the company's approach, their planning, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. Just to follow up on what you just said, is that range from 90 days to 9 months, is that from the 69 applicants, or is that a range from the 6 that we have said that is, or we're targeting?
Thank you for the question. It's actually not a reference to any of them specifically, just to the companies that I spoke with before we began the RFP process, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
All right. Got one or two more here. 4-liter Meeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir, for being here today. With the post-award protest process, did I understand it correctly that you are hearing those protests individually and not the commission?
That is correct. I'm serving as the hearing officer. Yes, sir, Leader.
Why would the commission themselves, being the determining body who made the decisions on where the license would go, why would the commission themselves not hear that, the commission members?
I appreciate the question, and it's an excellent question. So the commission is the governing body, and they selected the intended applicants for the process. The agency did not receive appropriations for independent evaluation. We did not receive appropriations for example, the option for an administrative law judge, for example, to serve as the hearing officer through this process. So if I can just be frank and respond to the question, really the motive and the mission for us was we had two choices, which was to try to get this process going forward, which our understanding from the industry, the chambers, the executive branch, the patients is we've been waiting. Please get this going forward. Our alternative was to do nothing. And so we moved forward with the resources that we had. Again, we got that RFP live 5 months after I was onboarded and have been moving through this process as expeditiously as possible. Commission is not opposed to looking at this process in the future for having it go through similar avenues that another state agency, for example, may have with the protest process or even the evaluation process. I hope that answers your question.
Sure. If I may follow up, Mr. Chairman, if you were to consider a third party to review those post-award protests, what type of funding would you be looking at?
So excellent question, Leader, and I don't have a figure to go with that. I certainly can put together an estimate and certainly can tell you the hours that our agency has invested in the process as a baseline for that.
Sure, and one final question. Has the commission members met since the July 7th meeting?
Thank you for the question. Yes, sir. We met this last Saturday on January the 29th.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Whit Patchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director. You've mentioned several times today that your hands are tied statutorily. Is that through the commission or through the General Assembly?
It's always a perilous question, Representative, to answer.
Both.
I'll just simply say that my response to a lot of questions that the commission has received is that we are in compliance, not defiance, with the law. And so that is, as you know, our mandate. We must comply with Georgia law, and our process has been entirely statutory.
If I may further, I would just like to say that for the betterment of the citizens that are trying to get this treatment legally, I would think that we would, as the General Assembly, would entertain and look forward to anything or any recommendations that you would have to speed this process up, because it's costing a lot of people a lot of money right now. And I think anything that you could recommend or your commission to recommend, we would gladly entertain that.
Thank you, Chairman, for the remarks, and if I may respond. At that July meeting, our commission chair, Dr. Christopher Edwards, did indicate that the commission is supportive and in favor of issuing additional licenses. That would require statutory changes because the number that we're able to issue by law is capped in the law. So we're not picking 6 because we only want to issue 6. We're picking 6 because the law caps that at 6. A lot of people don't know that that is a statutory requirement. With that said, Chairman, we're certainly happy to work with this House and the other chamber as well to look at legislative opportunity to amend or adjust. And if I could just further comment, one of the items that speaks directly to the time of this process, this time required for this process, as well as the process itself. This chamber, as well as your counterparts across the rotunda, actually made an excellent amendment in the previous session with the passage of SB 195. And SB 195 does allow the commission the opportunity to, after the issuance of its initial licenses, to be able to write its own policies and procedures for issuing the next round of licenses. We believe that that will help. Again, no policies existed prior to this. It's a new industry in Georgia. I think it made sense to go through that DOS procurement manual process, if you will, for our licensing. But in the future, we obviously are a little different than the average state contract. And we're certainly prepared and interested in developing a new process, new procedure when we go through this again.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, just closing remark, I would just like to see one open. I don't care how many there are. I think we need to have one open. So thank you.
We agree. Appreciate those remarks.
Floor Leader Meeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I failed to ask this a moment ago. If my recollection is correct, the 2 of those licenses, one would go to the University of Georgia, the other to Fort Valley State. Is that correct?
And Leader knows of what you speak. In addition to the 2 production licenses for Class 1, the 4 production licenses for Class 2, the Commission does have the authority to issue the 2 university licenses, which are separate and apart from the 6, which are industry.
Can that be done? Has that been done, or is it working through the same process with the other licenses yet to be? Understanding the notice of intent has been issued, but the the license themselves have not been issued, to the first group. But has that been done with the universities?
Appreciate the question, Leader. The requirement in the law for us to issue that license is for the either the University of Georgia or UGA or Fort Valley State University to submit to the commission a letter of interest. And so their process is different than the process that we've gone through for industry applicants. It's non-competitive, right?
Okay, thank you.
All right. I have just a couple here, Andrew. When you said the post-award process would be over this year, that was calendar year or fiscal year?
Fiscal year, Mr. Chairman, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's the projection. We anticipate it should be finalized before the end of this fiscal year and contracts awarded.
Okay. All right. And also, I guess, just to clarify, if I heard you right, I know we had David Amati in here earlier with transparency. They work with administrative hearings very closely to settle a lot of their disputes, and I think it works well for them. So am I hearing that for things to maybe move a little faster for you, the similar setup through administrative hearings where these appeals would be filed there and allow them to do that and handle that so that you don't have to, which would involve a third party, but we would need to do that statutorily for your commission to go through that chain of command.
My understanding, Mr. Chairman, it's an excellent question, and thank you for it. My understanding, and again, I probably should refer to both Commissions Council and Legislative Council as well, but my understanding is that with the changes from SB 195, the Commission can actually include that in our future process as the way that things go with protests in the future. To respond directly, though, the Commission is certainly in favor of the future protest processes going through administrative hearings and being heard by an administrative law judge.
Okay. Representative Evans, did you have one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just really quickly, you mentioned for the University of Georgia and Fort Valley State University that those were non-competitive and they just need to send a letter of intent. Has that happened? And if not, do you know why?
I have not received a letter of interest from either of those two universities. I think that the discussions are likely have been had prior to my arrival as executive director, but I don't have a request in hand for the commission to act on.
Is there anything we can do to encourage those letters?
I don't want to speak for either university as far as their reasoning or their position or posture. So just to be clear,
we'll just ask them. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
it's just
okay.
head scratching.
I'm not privy to that, but I'll just simply say I think that based on the conversations my understanding has occurred prior to my arrival is universities simply want to look at the legality issues associated with production for them since they are an institution that receives federal funding. That's my understanding from them.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All righty. I don't see any more lights here, Andrew. Thank you for being here, and look forward to talking to you some more. And thank you, committee. I thought we were going to have a short meeting this morning. We've gone over an hour now. Thank you all for being here and sticking with us, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, committee members.